objects.
Really?
Green
put it up against another.
And then,
Yeah, I remember.
It's not even the shape.
Negative.
Mentally ill.
Did a special effects agency. We're back here in the Bark with the boys, episode 81, Ethan Clerc podcast show. Good to be back. Welcome back to all the listeners, all the viewers, everyone tuning in, wherever you guys are in the world. We have a little Australian audience forming.
Ooh, I like to hear
I
that.
checked the numbers today. We have a little audience in Australia. Whoever's down in the land down under, thanks for tuning in.
big Ethan Clerc fans.
Yeah, I don't know. We go down there and maybe there's a little welcome wagon for the boys.
That would be unreal.
They come out of the woods in their kangaroo costumes and stuff.
I would love to go to Australia, though.
I know,
Like,
I would.
like all jokes aside, I feel like that would be an amazing
be a
place to
trip.
visit. Oh, yeah.
I feel like Australia is all just like you never know what's gonna pop out of like you're just driving down the street. If they even do that there, I don't know. I feel like everything's just different there. It's like a whole nother world because they're so far. They're far away from everybody. It seems like they're out in there in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, Australians, thanks for tuning in. Though, get too sidetracked here. We have a good episode for you planned tonight, though. This is gonna be a pretty deep episode. Like there's some things to think about here, you know what I mean? This isn't your typical show where we're messing around talking about Area 51 and aliens. We got some.
This is more serious than Area 51.
Yeah, even though Area 51 is very serious, we have some stuff here that might make people at home think, is going to make you guys think a little bit, and definitely had me thinking when I was doing my research and looking into it. But before we get going here, we got Colin Clare and Adam Farag.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you boys back, and let's just jump right in and see what we think here. So tonight's main topic is the butterfly effect. Now, do either of you guys know anything about that?
Good song.
I was just going to say, for this life I cannot change.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
In seriousness, though, anyone know anything about the butterfly effect?
I mean, just pretty much like the classic like saying that goes with it, how a butterfly on one side of the world could cause a tsunami across, or a typhoon, I think, is what they said. But honestly, I mean, from what I've seen, I think like the gist of it is like one small action after like multiple small actions can cause a huge change somewhere or something else.
Exactly. Yeah, that is right. I had a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, and there's a tornado in Texas. But
Something
the
like that,
typhoon,
yeah.
I've heard the
Same
typhoon.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
same
I've heard
concept.
the typhoon. I've heard something in Chicago. But the guy that came up with it was Edward Lorenz, and we're talking way back in the day. He was actually coming up with a model to predict weather. And when he put in a small number, he was expecting a small change in the weather. But what he ended up getting was a small number caused a massive change. And when he looked more into it, he realized that there's a lot of things, a lot more than weather that are affected by everything. I think science is kind of like, there's for every attraction, there's an opposite attraction. There's all these different laws, but the butterfly effect almost goes against all those laws. It almost like diverges from that. And that's why, to me, it's so interesting because you can go back and look at little things in history and like, what the heck did that all change? And it also makes you think like we are a lot more important than we think we are, even though like we're this small in a huge universe. One little thing we do, like the whole thing about the butterfly effect is, if we leave the Bark at 8:30 or if we leave here at 9, the world goes in two different directions from that point on because we're going to go home at a different time. Adam's going to go home at a different time. We're going to talk to people at a different time. Everything changes from that point on. And it really makes you think, what are the big events that transpired because of one small little action? Can you guys think of anything that really is, I mean,
That's tough.
there's a couple main ones I'm going to bring up, but I just wanted to get your guys' opinions on it before we get into too many like really big examples because there's some crazy ones out there.
I mean, off the top of my head, I'm just trying to think of like any situation that I've seen, like just not even in the news, just anything where it's like right place or like wrong place, wrong time or something like that. But I really don't know. Like I said, off the top of my head, I really
Maybe
can't
if I would
get
have stayed
anything.
at work 5 minutes later today, I would have not dropped my phone when I got home.
Hey, that's the thing.
That's
though.
actually a big one. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just-
And
Like maybe Ethan wouldn't have been home an hour before, so I would have never gone to his room, drop my phone when I was opening.
Hey, but here's the thing. You dropping your phone is causing you to come up with a new, you have to figure out what to do now. So you're going to go get a new phone.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you have to talk to people that you weren't initially going to talk to about this. And that means
maybe
they're
I'll
going to
have to meet my future wife at the Verizon store.
That's the whole thing, though. That's the whole thing behind the butterfly effect. Literally, though, like if you think about it, if you think of every decision or if you think of anything that happens in your life, you have to think back of all the prior things that led up to that. You know, my car broke down in Chicago, which led Tylen and his dad to come pick us up, which led me to buy a car from Tylen's dad, which led all the things that happened in that car. If I didn't have that experience, what are all the things that wouldn't have happened just because my car broke down in Chicago? And so it makes you think, though, just because you dropped your phone, there are going to be not only effects on you, but you're affecting the whole universe. That's the whole thing behind the butterfly effect. Literally, something as small as a butterfly flapping its wing could change something that big. And I think there's more to it. Obviously, this guy didn't just say that it's about butterflies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more to it. Let me pull up some examples here to show you guys
crazy stuff.
some of the craziest things that happened because of small, little, tiny things. So we'll just pick a random one here. So this one is about how hip-hop music was born. In 1977, lightning struck an electricity transmission line in New York City, and hip-hop music was born. So this one's literally saying if this electricity transmission line wasn't struck, that hip-hop music wasn't going to be born. Now, this isn't saying hip-hop music would never have happened. This is saying that at this exact time, this is when hip-hop happened. And that could have affected whether we'd be listening to Drake nowadays or not. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, if hip-hop wasn't invented till way later, Drake may not be the kind as famous as he is.
Think about it. If this lightning bolt doesn't hit, then I probably don't have a tattoo then.
There you go. And isn't that crazy to think? Like, what else would you have got a tattoo of? Because it's not saying that everything changes. It's just saying that things change, and that means there might be something that might have replaced that thing. Mm-hmm. But here's what it says for people that are listening. A second lightning strike triggered a chain reaction that left all of New York City in the dark. On that evening, DJ Grandmaster Caz, a Bronx native, was spinning records in a park. As the city went dark, the looting began. It's Caz's conclusion that because of the stolen gear, people who couldn't afford turntables and mixers were able to become DJs. He says opportunity sprang from that, and you could... Got to figure out how to make this bigger. Maybe you can't hear. Oh, lost her. I think the bottom part just says how you could tell the difference between before and after the storm hit. Like there was definitely people doing hip hop because of that. So this is the thing. You would never have thought that's the way to look at things. It's all about the perspective of it too. But he's literally saying that all these people couldn't afford it, and it took a lightning strike, just a random thing, weather, to change everything for these people so that they could become DJs, and that's how these people developed hip-hop music. So when you think about the butterfly effect, there's more to it.
Is that a picture from that?
It looks like it, yeah. I think I've seen pictures from this before of people.
Can you zoom in on that?
I don't know how you zoom in on here actually. I keep forgetting I can look down on my.
If you scroll with the scroller thing, doesn't that the scroller thing doesn't? Hey.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, so the bottom.
Adam.
Yeah, I just have this dang thing here on the bottom. Won't let me get down there. Okay, yeah. So and you could see the differences before the blackout and after. So that was a weird one. Obviously, when you think of the butterfly effect, that you don't think of the little tiny details of it, but you're gonna see that in 1905. The Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna rejected an application twice. That rejection gave us the Third Reich, so Nazi Germany, because of that. That aspiring art student was Adolf Hitler. He'd moved to Vienna to study art, and when his mother died, he found himself stranded there and forced to live in the slums. It was at that time he became anti-Semitic. From there, he joined the German army and moved up the ranks. Imagine if he'd spent his time on figure drawings instead. This might be the biggest one.
That is so hard to imagine a guy that's just known for, just such a bad, an evil person, was an aspiring art student. It's so crazy that someone can change from just something like this, trying to go to school,
Yep.
learn about the arts, and then just completely changes his personality of who he is.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And when people bring up the butterfly effect, one of the biggest ones they bring up is like the alternative history, because that's a big part of this we're going to get into. The alternative history, as if we never defeated the Nazis. What if the Nazis never existed and that, all those Jews and people wouldn't have died? What are because that after that changed the entire world. That was like one of the, if not the biggest event that changed mankind going forward. It was one of them. So if Adolf Hitler would have never got rejected to art school, he probably would have gone on and not became a dictator. And what would have happened then? That's like how crazy the butterfly effect really is if you think about it. One tiny thing, and who even knows how many people made that decision to reject him? It was probably one or two people that was going through applications and said, this guy's drawings suck. And then and they're the ones who blame for everything that happened after. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
but,
that's fair.
But literally, that's the kind of stuff that really makes you think like, holy cow, this is just unbelievable to think about. And a lot of it has to do with war. There's one in here on World War II. Let's see here. Yep, 2 World Wars. So this one, Gavrilo Princip stopped for a sandwich and triggered the events leading to 2 world wars. So this one's very interesting. Princip was part of the Black Hand, a guerrilla group tasked with assassinating Archduke Franz Ferdinand. When that attempt failed, Princip headed to a cafe to have lunch. As Providence would have it, Ferdinand's motorcade stalled right outside the cafe, giving him a clear shot, which he took. That assassination is thought to be the trigger event that launched World War II, and by extension, or World War I, and by extension, World War II. So this event, and I read about this one even before I was looking into the butterfly effect, though. Literally, that's was one of the main events that went forward, caused World War I, and then obviously caused World War II after that. A guy that couldn't make the shot to begin with, but then his motorcycle broke down, and he had the perfect time when the car came by, and he took the shot. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, like a sandwich. It started 2 world wars. Like, how much is different? It really makes you think that there are little tiny things that we each can do, and it would have drastic effects on everything. It's hard to believe, but that's just the truth about it. This one is about North Korea. God, I wish I'd get rid of these bars on the bottom and top. Super annoying.
I'm sure there is a way. We just don't know how.
Maybe you got to hit this. There we go.
Hey.
Oh,
whoa.
Now we're getting a little movie action here. Go back. All right.
Movie.
Kim Jong-nam, which is Kim Jong-un's brother, if you didn't know.
Okay.
Kim Jong-nam was the heir to North Korean throne until he was caught with a fake passport trying to visit Tokyo Disneyland. The man was reformist, believing in free market, educated in Switzerland, and was going to change North Korea into a democratic nation. Instead, he was prevented from visiting Mickey Mouse, and his father exiled him out of North Korea. He died after being assassinated by his younger brother, Kim Jong-un. If Kim Jong-nam was not arrested in Japan, his father won't exile him. North Korea will be led by a moderate president who would open the country to free market, just like how Myanmar is today. Instead, Kim Jong-nam was arrested. His father was embarrassed and removed his heir status, kicked him out of North Korea. The new heir was Kim Jong-un, who in 2017 led the country to verge of nuclear war with Trump. So literally, the fact that this guy got arrested at Disneyland led to North Korea continuing to be a horrible country. Because his brother was actually like talking about opening it back up or whatever. A guy, I couldn't believe that he got caught with a fake passport trying to get into Disneyland.
That's crazy.
What confuses me is, like, if you're somebody of that, like, that rank or whatever, like, how can you not, like, are they not allowed to leave the country? Is that why he had to get a fake one? Or, like, why would he not have a real passport?
That was what I was wondering, too. Why maybe he didn't want his father and, like, the whole country to know that he was, like, interested in other culture. Because I know North Korea is, like, you know what I mean? They're on their own thing. Like, there's no other culture there. They don't want Western civilization to be. And I feel like Disneyland's definitely, well, obviously Walt Disney and everything, it's Western culture. They don't want any of that in North Korea. You know, they block the TVs and the internet. You can't watch anything. You're not supposed to know what's going on. So maybe that was why. But this happened in 2001 when he got caught. And so I've always heard that Kim Jong-un's brother was assassinated I didn't know that this was why.
Yeah.
I didn't know that this is the reason why.
You probably would have never guessed that either. 'Cause
No.
I don't understand how anybody.
There's got to be a
anybody could.
picture of him caught with like a mugshot of Kim Jong Nam, because having a fake passport, isn't that that's got to be a big crime.
Yeah, but I just feel like there's extenuating circumstances because of who he is, that there's a reason why all this was handled the way it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Instead of going to jail, he got killed. They handle things
Seems about North Korea.
Yeah, they handle things a little bit different over there. So that's a big one. Very interesting thing. In 1962, a Union scout found a box of cigars at an abandoned campsite. Because of that, the South lost the Civil War. Wrapped around 3 of those cigars were Special Order 191, issued by Robert E. Lee. That order contained detailed descriptions of the movements of every army in his brigade. Stonewall Jackson had distributed copies to all his commanders, one of whom, Daniel Harvey Hill, had wrapped them around cigars and had forgotten about them. And that is the reason why we don't have slavery anymore in the United States, because one guy left a box of cigars at a campsite and the Union Army found it.
I just love, like, for every single one of these pictures or like the things, how they make the title just sound ridiculous as possible. I mean, like, they all are.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
But it's just funny the way they word it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
in 1862, someone found a box of cigars, and because of that, the South lost the war. Like, that's insane. And then you read about it, and you're just like, this is unbelievable.
It almost looks like some of the news headlines nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen some of that? Like, you're reading it, and it's like a headline is like, Mom kills her son over Krispy Kreme or something. And then you read the article, and it was like the mom was going to get donuts, and her son was laying in the driveway playing with the toys, and the mom didn't see. It's like, what? The mom didn't kill the son over Krispy Kreme donuts. That's what that reminds me of. And also, I was going to say, these look like you could pull this straight out of a history book. Don't these look like the graphics?
Like from high school, yeah.
This is the conspiracy theory butterfly
this
effect.
Looks like a page in one of our old social books or something.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't teaching you this in school.
No, not stuff like this.
No.
They
not-
don't talk about any of this in school.
No.
Isn't that is weird though, because I feel like this is history. It's just like people pick out things. That's the only thing about none of this. You can't verify any of it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't verify that just because this guy found a box of cigars that meant that they lost the Civil War. Like, how can you prove that?
Yeah, like all of these have those kind of things where it's like there's a million different things that play a part in it.
Yeah.
But who says that that these aren't a major part?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for example, the woman with North Korea and the Kim Jong Nam.
Yeah.
He, like, even if he had made that sneak trip, came back, nobody knew about it. Like, there's no telling whether or not that North Korea would have turned into a democracy, or if everybody else who was so used to this, and like his family too, who like it was obviously like pro like dictatorship and stuff like that. There's no saying that they wouldn't have overthrown him anyway and kept it the way it is, or just changed him and stuff like that. I mean, that is a big thing. Like him obviously being assassinated changes all that.
Oh, for sure.
But, I don't know. There are just so many outside circumstances, but just looking at it like this, it is so like
Isn't
crazy.
it crazy?
It's amazing, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any more. Let me see if I have any more on here. Okay, we got that one. So these to me are some of the most interesting ones. I found a lot of them, and a lot of them people had like their own stories about how like their parents were like their lives were saved because of, and they call that the reverse butterfly effect, like a decision you made. Like a decision you didn't make. So like, let's say you like kind of like the We Are Marshall or whatever, the football movie, you know, how not the whole team died. Wasn't there something, I haven't seen the movie in a while, but wasn't there a reason why like part of the team died and part of them didn't? Weren't they late?
To be completely honest, that just reminds me of Final Destination.
Final
and all the
Destination.
Final Destination movies.
Yep.
But honestly, like I've seen the movie I've seen the movie We Are Marshall. I haven't seen it for a long time, and I honestly couldn't tell you much about it besides that they went down in a plane crash.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the bus broke down for half the team or something to get there. Like there was 2 buses or there was something like that. But anyway, they call that the reverse butterfly effect. So like a decision that you didn't make, and you hear about that stuff all the time, like people that were supposed to be on the 9/11 plane.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've heard that before from like there's been people go on news stations before and like their taxi didn't show up, or there was a freak
Guys
accident.
who are late to work at
Yep.
the Twin Towers.
Yep. And you hear about that. That's the reverse butterfly effect. Like things happened, and it could have not even been something that you made. Like it could have just been the fact that someone in front of you called that taxi, and they got there before you, and they were in the building before you, and that decision saved your life, even though you didn't have anything to do with it. It's crazy to think about that. I was reading one. It was like it was a family, and their car broke down because they hit a bump on the road. And they ended up missing like a freak accident up the highway that killed like a ton of people. And then the guy said, what the construction guy, someone made that mistake or whatever, that thing that was in the road. It was an accident from construction, and that guy might have just been lazy, and he might have had a bad day because his wife, he got his wife divorced him, and what led to that decision. Maybe the first decision that came from that was the wife met this other guy doing. You go way back. You get what I'm saying? No, like the butterfly effect can go way back, and that's why it could literally, one thing we could do, like tonight or tomorrow, could literally affect who's president, the next president, or the president after that. It just doesn't sound like that would be possible, but a tiny little thing can have that big change.
In today's world, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. The other part to this is chaos theory, which is kind of the same kind of thing, butterfly effect chaos theory, which is small things in a complex system may have no effect or massive one. It's virtually impossible to know which will turn out to be the same, which brings us into quantum theory. And now I know when you bring up quantum before anything, it sounds extremely complicated. But there's a simple explanation for this, and I have a video for it so that it really describes it. But this is a very interesting thing. We're about to go off the deep end a little bit here, so you guys gotta stay with me. We're about to get into like alternative universes and many, like, I'm talking about some very crazy stuff. So everyone who's listening or watching, stay with me here. We're gonna go over a theory called Schrodinger's cat. You may have heard about this before. It's a well-known theory. Just watch this video.
What is Schrodinger's cat? Schrodinger's cat refers to a thought experiment proposed by the renowned physicist Erwin Schrödinger, who used it to illustrate the weirdness of quantum theory. Quantum theory says that until a particle is measured and observed, it actually exists in all the states it could possibly be in simultaneously. So if there is a statistical probability that this particle could be found here in one state, here in another state, here in another state, and here in another state, then the particle will in fact be existing in all of those states at once. This is referred to as the particle being in a superposition. When the particle is measured, the superposition collapses and the particle chooses one state to be in over all of the others, and this is the state that our measuring instrument will observe.
You get what they're saying there?
Honestly, not a clue.
So everything, it took me a couple times to watch a video and research, because the first time I watched it, I had no idea what she was talking about. So pretty much everything's made up of particles, right? You can only take a picture and see one, like the position they're in at this exact point. Like, did you see how they were all in these different points? So the measuring instrument, obviously, which is a camera, takes a picture, and you see the one particle in that position, even though you might take another picture and the particle might be here. You might be here. It's moving so quick, and there's many particles, but you might only capture it in that one spot. And the superposition, like she was saying, is just all of the particles in all of the places they could possibly be at that exact moment. Obviously, you can't capture that in a camera. So that's what she's saying. You'll see where she's going with it.
If this is true, then it should apply to larger objects, since all matter is made up of particles. But of course, we know that that does not happen. We observe larger objects occupying only one state. Schrödinger came up with the cat example to bring home just how odd the behavior of particles as described by quantum theory is. In this experiment, a cat is placed in a covered box with a radioactive sample that has a 50% chance of decaying and killing the cat. While the box is covered, we have no idea if the cat is dead or alive, and only once we open the box will we know if the cat made it or not. So if we think of the cat like a particle, using the superposition principle, we would say that while the box was covered and the cat was not being observed, the cat was both dead and alive in order for it to be in all the states it could possibly be in.
So that right there is the superposition. The cat is dead and alive at the same time because it's every possible outcome that it could be. The cat's either alive or dead.
I just don't like. I don't know if I'm missing something, but I just don't get how that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's because
Right?
she's about to go deeper into it, but literally what it's saying, it's kind of saying the same thing with the particle thing. You take a picture and the particles in this exact time. It's kind of like the box is covered, so you have no idea if the cat is alive or dead until you open the box. But until then, the superposition, which just means all possible outcomes, we have to either picture that the cat is both dead and alive, because that's just what the superposition is.
So, okay, just out of curiosity, did he actually do this experiment or no? Or it was like hypothetical?
It was a hypothetical.
Okay, I was going to say,
experiment.
if so, that is really messed up.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think if you were to put a
angry cat
nuclear particle in a box of the cat, I don't think anyone there would be alive.
Well, I'm pretty sure the cat would eat it, knowing my cats. And
Yeah. You'll see where she's going with this, though.
Alright,
it gets a little bit better.
Only when we lifted the box to observe the cat, that is, once we carried out our act of measurement, did the cat's superposition collapse for it to be either dead or alive. Common sense tells us that before we uncovered the box, the cat was either dead or alive, but not both at the same time, and our act of observing didn't force one outcome over the other. But common sense is not something that we can cling on to when studying the quantum realm. Countless experiments have shown us that subatomic particles behave in strange ways that we don't observe in larger matter. There is a theory called the many worlds theory that states that anything that can happen does happen. So when Schrödinger's cat was observed, in one universe the cat was found to be dead, and in another universe the cat was found to be alive. The theory explains it like this. When the cat was in the covered box, it was in the superposition of being both dead and alive. When the box was uncovered, a split in the universe occurred, where in one universe the cat was dead and in another the cat was alive.
So you can see where this is going to go, because then in that alternative universe, another thing happens and changes. And then, so literally, the theory is that every time something changes, there's a multiple universe of that exact same thing going on. And this thing is just going to keep going and going and
The implications of this are mind-boggling. Every time there is one or more possible option available for the universe splits and creates copies where all possible outcomes come true. So for example, there could be a world where Hitler won World War II, a world where mankind never made it to the moon, and a world where penicillin was never discovered. There could also theoretically be worlds that are much more advanced than us. A world where humans have been able to glimpse further and deeper into the workings of the universe and have been able to achieve immortality.
Now, this sounds like unbelievably crazy, obviously. This is something that is obviously impossible to prove, because in the theory, we would be living in here, and then whichever decision be there. But at the same time, there's this one, there's that one. It sounds like crazy ridiculous. But when you go back to the beginning of the multiple particle thing, that's what it is. The fact that the camera captures one particle and the fact that you open the box and you don't know if the cat's dead or alive literally shows that there are things that we just can't see, and if those have minute changes, maybe there is a whole separate thing. It just sounds ridiculous to think that there'd be unlimited amount of universes.
Oh yeah,
there'd be unlimited. There'd be a universe where I flip this table up, and you know what I mean. There'd be a universe for every decision. It'd be an uncountable number of universes, and that it all goes back to that initial particle, the quantum theory about how you can have all these particles, which is the superposition, which is every outcome, and then they collapse, and that leads to one decision. So do you kind of see where they're going with that?
Yeah.
I
can see it there.
Interesting.
It's hard to wrap your mind around, because it's just super, super complicated, and people spend, entire careers looking into this stuff. I think I have a picture here of what it is kind of right here. This is another graphic of it. So there's a guy here, gets older, goes off this path, looks like a homeless guy. A fifth dimensional perspective, it says. It goes here, he's a working guy. He goes the married route. I don't even know, does she kill him?
I'm guessing that she died.
Somebody's ill.
Oh, she dies. Okay.
That's my guess.
And then
yes.
here the family you have a family. This is almost like a real life game of life. That's what it's almost like. We have to restart the cameras here, Colin, quick. not to jump into the deep discussion. It's one of those things. It almost sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, but it's actually like a science that people have looked into and like actually spent a lot of time researching. And what do you guys think about this? It sounds way out there. This is almost getting to the time travel thing we went into that one episode.
I think that it's definitely interesting to think about how like if there's like obviously there's big things, but even you're right, all the little things that we don't do, like. I mean, I'm not really sure if down the road how this is going to affect me, but like, let's say it was like you were saying with your car. Like my car broke down a few weeks ago. I got a different car. Therefore, my brother got a different car. So then that changes his whole, like, what he can do because now he has to pay more for a car because he got a newer car. You know, stuff like that. And I watched this one episode of Community, and it's kind of like all about this because like they're at a party, and essentially, so there's the 7 of them. They have to roll the dice to see who has to go. They're in someone's apartment. They got to roll the dice to see who goes down and gets the pizza from the pizza guy.
Yeah.
And so they do the episode where like every time a different outcome comes out, and the entire thing changes based on what number is rolled.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's definitely like a crazy episode to watch. I'm probably gonna go rewatch it after this. Now, just thinking about it.
It's like a real experiment for the more many worlds theory. And the many worlds theory and the butterfly effect obviously are different things, but they kind of correlate in the same mindset that the small change could affect a big thing. The many worlds theory just takes that to the next level and really makes it blown out there. The fact that there's another universe going on that we can't see right now that is a little bit different. The fact that I grabbed this water bottle and put it there's another universe where I put the water bottle here. Like that just doesn't sound like a real thing.
It sounds unrealistic.
It does sound unrealistic, and it's not going to be proven because in our the current mindset, we are all on the same universe path, and then there's these other paths that a duplicate version of us is on. And this had me thinking, what if the afterlife is just you joining a different path?
To see that, I feel like is
that's a
whole different thing. But like, I think that, or I really believe in the whole like, obviously one choice leads to another, but trying to find, or like, I find it harder to believe that making one choice leads to a separate reality where I don't make that choice. You know, I think that just you do something or you don't. You know, and then whatever happens from there, you know, it happens. Yeah, it might not happen if a certain action before it didn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
And it's pretty much what you've been saying, but I don't know, the different realities is really what throws me off.
Oh, yeah. And I think most people would I'm not one to jump on board with this thing and I'd obviously have to do a lot more research than a couple hours looking into it today. Because it sounds so crazy. It sounds like a bizarre conspiracy theory. But then you look into it and there's more science behind it. A lot of well-known people with PhDs are looking into it. It's not, got a bunch of guys in their basement wearing tinfoil hats, that are just coming up with this stuff. It's scientists have looked into this before. But the one thing I wanted to bring up before that I didn't get to was news. I think you mentioned news before somewhere. I think you said something about news.
It was when we had first started, and you were asking us if we could think of anything like that we had or that we had seen related to the butterfly effect, and I was wondering if I'd seen anything on the news about it.
Okay. So you just brought the word up. That triggered me to think things that are in the media that have influenced people to go out and make crazy decisions, like the Columbine.
Oh, yeah.
Columbine, the guys that did Columbine were influenced by all the media attention that the school shooters that shot up that college, I can't remember the name of that. There was a college, the first big one out in I think it was Colorado. There was a huge, the first big school shooting. Which one am I thinking of here? I'm going to look it up quick.
I thought it was in Texas, but.
Was it?
That was my.
Oh, maybe it was. College. School, was it in the 90s or early 2000s?
Oh, I thought. See, my timeline is all messed up because I thought that Columbine was way further back than. Hey, look at that! August 1st, 1966, UT massacre.
UT. Okay, I'm not thinking of that one. I'm thinking of a little bit more modern. I'm thinking of. Let's see, what college was that? Oh, these are. Okay, Gary, Indiana. Really.
Yeah,
see, there's a lot on here. There's a lot on here. We gotta look for higher numbers.
Cold Spring, Minnesota. Red Lake,
Minnesota. Wow.
Huh.
And we did a whole podcast on school shooting. Okay, 33. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm not thinking of Blacksburg. I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, the school shooters were influenced by what they saw on the media.
Mm-hmm.
And how many other events that have happened have been from people that were like saw something on the media, and if that wasn't on there all the time, maybe they wouldn't have done that.
Well, I mean, even something like I totally forgot his name, the Domino's character.
Oh, the Noid guy.
The Noid, yeah.
Kendrick Lamar Noid.
Uh-huh.
Not Kendrick Lamar Noid. Wasn't the guy's name Kendrick Noid or something? Kendrick Lamar Noid.
Shout out K-Dot.
Yeah.
But that's funny.
What was the guy's name? Wasn't
it
Lamar Noid?
Wasn't it like Andrew Lamar Noid?
Maybe
I
it
thought
was
Yeah,
Kendrick.
it is
I
Andrew.
think his name was Kanye West Noid.
Kendrick Lamar Noid.
Yeah. Hey, but remember how many newspaper articles had like the Noid synonyms or whatever?
They
Annoyed, the annoyed
editors at those papers were killing me with those headlines.
The annoyed Noid was avoiding.
The Noid avoids the.
Yeah. What were you gonna say though? I didn't mean to interrupt you with the Kendrick Lamar Noid.
Oh no, but like that's pretty much the same thing you were saying about how the Columbine guys were like inspired pretty much from the media.
Yeah.
And because the Noid guy, did he kill people or no, he didn't. He held up the dominoes.
He held up I don't know if he actually killed anybody. I can't remember now.
But
I think he
then-
just held up.
But then, like, everybody that was part of that, I'm sure being part of that experience changed their life. And if
Mhm.
Domino's never had that character,
Yep.
that guy doesn't, go crazy from it.
Oh yeah.
And then doesn't create that whole
True.
that whole media spectacle. You know.
If
Yep.
it doesn't come out, people probably won't be scared of Ronald McDonald.
Hey, I'm glad you brought up the horror movie thing because the guy that wrote the original book that made Friday the 13th like a bad day causes, I think it was like $900 million a year loss on that day because people don't go on vacations that day. People don't go to hotels on that day. People don't eat out that day. People don't want to drive in their cars on that day. It's a $900 million loss on that one day because of, or well, however many times it comes up in a year, obviously. That's how much it is of a loss because one guy wrote a book and that affected how many, $900 million times however many years, and the book was written in like 1930 something. So a small thing like that has a drastic effect. And even like culture is all about things that were way back then, like Friday the 13th, and now you got the movies, and now you got Jason versus Freddy. You got all these different horror. What horror movies were influenced by that? What guys decided to go to film school because they saw Friday the 13th? That's maybe a bad example. I don't know if anyone wanted to go to film school because they saw Friday the 13th.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah, but
I mean, we graduated on Friday the 13th, so
was it really?
yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. And we wouldn't.
Can't believe you guys are still here.
We wouldn't be talking about this if the guy hadn't written the book. Think about that. So the one big lesson to get from all this is everything you do has a way bigger outcome than you really think.
Yes.
That's really the big message.
A
of it.
crazy
you
thing-
all matter. That's what it is.
You all
A
matter.
crazy thing to think of is if you're like a Christian, they say God knows exactly what you're going to do before you do it, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just like crazy because you could be like, well, what if I do this, God? No, what if I do that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Have
Yeah.
you ever
Well,
thought about
that's
that?
the thing. Religion. That obviously that's outside the realm. That's kind of like the many world thing. Yeah, we can't comprehend like something like that.
I mean, it's kind of hard to go with those two because there's so many times where religion goes against science,
Mm-hmm.
And religion is more so beliefs than,
Oh, for sure.
based
Having
on
faith.
facts like
Yeah.
science is. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously I'm
Yeah.
not downplaying religion, but
Yeah, but that being
but that's how it is.
the
you know,
many
they're
world,
different.
Yeah.
the many world theory. I don't think many scientists are going to agree with that.
No.
But there,
No.
Hugh Everett, the guy that came up with it, was, obviously a scientist, PhD, whatever. He was a physicist, well-known guy. I'm sure he lost a lot of credibility after saying that there's many universes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember what it is. There are theories that scientists can't figure out about this quantum thing. And the quantum, as soon as I saw quantum, I'm like, I'm not even gonna try to figure that out because quantum sounds like some crazy hard. You got to get like a 10-year degree to even understand what quantum.
The word, yeah.
So I saw that, but then I watched the video. I'm like, okay, this is starting to make a little bit more sense. Just the fact that you have all these things, everything's made up of particles. This is made up of particles, and there's so many of them. And you take a picture of a particle, and you can't get the particle in all of its positions. But that just doesn't really make sense to me when you talk about something as big as like a human being, and the fact that you can take a picture of a human being, but then you're also supposed to think that there's another alternative universe going on that human being is a part of. That seems harder to grasp than the whole particle thing, because particles are so small you can't see them with your eye, obviously. Whereas a human or anything bigger than that, obviously you would be able to see. So that's where I have a hard time believing that. Maybe it'd be something to look more into, though. I have no idea.
See, I got all my knowledge on this stuff from Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty? Do they talk? I've never watched it, but they talk about that on there?
Yes. So like the big thing is that Rick is just this like the smartest person ever, and he has like this portal gun that he can go literally universe to universe, and like he always says that like he doesn't care about anything or like anybody because like infinite universes exist. So if life doesn't work out in one universe, he goes to another one.
Oh, so it's based off this whole thing.
It's a cartoon. I mean,
yeah.
I was gonna say it's not.
There's a lot of science involved, though, isn't there?
I mean, honestly, like there's a reason.
Low key, probably.
About as much science as Star Wars.
Well, I mean, hey, you watch it. No, but like
Star
there's
Trek.
a reason why like there was like all these like memes and jokes going around that people who watch Rick and Morty are smarter than or like think they're smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because the show is so scientific.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like honestly, like the stuff they talk about, I don't know how much of it is real. Half the words they use are made up.
Okay.
But like, I don't know. It's extremely entertaining. But yeah, I'm a big fan.
That's the whole theory behind the show, though. Like he can jump between. There's parallel universes going on.
Yeah. They jump universes many times per episode.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's also hilarious.
But like I said, it's a big part of culture and society, and everything we do is all based off of this. And I feel like butterfly effect means a lot, like a different thing to people than what we've talked about. To many people, it means, when I was looking it up, it means to many people leverage. Like if you do this, you'll have a better chance of going here. That's not what the guy that came up with it was saying. He was saying that a little thing change can cause good or bad. Where people look at it in more the way like, oh, if I would have done this, I could have been a millionaire. Because it goes back to the lottery ticket thing. You know, if I would have got the lottery, how many people in my life would have been affected by it? Well, that's, again, going off of leverage. This guy understood that a small thing like denying a guy to an art school potentially led to the extermination of millions of people. You know, and so it wasn't just about leverage. It was about the negative and the positive. There's just no way to figure out what, like it said here, a complex system may have no effect or a massive one. So something to think about for both of you guys.
For sure.
And everyone else listening or watching. If anyone has any things they'd like to add, because we're not professionals. I'm not a scientist.
Believe it or not, we do not have PhDs over here.
I'm wearing a Bass Pro Shops. Adam's got his vote sticker. That's a good thing. They were getting into the voting.
Everybody, I hope that all my fellow Minnesotans went and voted today. Well, 2 days ago, because this is going to come out in 2 days.
Yep.
Make sure you guys all went and voted in the primary.
Vote in the primary.
Do your job as an American citizen.
There we go.
And then obviously again
Who'd
in
you
November.
vote for? Our main man, Sherman.
That is the main reason why I went down there today, was to make sure that my dear friend Jason Sherman got my vote.
Friend of the podcast, Jason Sherman, Mr. Sherman, the Shermanator. Can't think of any more nicknames for him. The Sherm.
If we had time, we would definitely get it. do a whole podcast episode on
Sherman's got to come back.
nicknames.
Sherman's been on a bunch of episodes. He's definitely got to come back. Hope he wins. So, like Adam said, be a good civics person. Civic.
Do your civic responsibility. Your
like
civic duty. That's
Joyce
what
would say. Civic duty. Get out there and vote. November's rolling around here. That's another thing. Voting and people becoming presidents. What a major change, because a lot of people blame George Bush for going to Iraq. And if we didn't go to Iraq, would ISIS be formed, and how many millions of people would have died?
Well, I mean,
I'm not saying I don't like George Bush or anything. I'm just saying there's, like the president who you vote in, and everybody that you vote in has massive. That's probably one of the biggest things. Obviously the president.
Well, I better not get into it. But George Bush is 100% the reason why I went to Iraq. But
yeah, I mean, there's probably people that have written entire books and things on that.
Oh yeah.
So we're not going to sit here and get into a whole nother discussion on politics, because that's not what we talk about in this podcast. But we'll be back next week. I think Damon's coming back to the podcast after a long awaited arrival. I think Adam is actually, this will be his last one for a while.
Got to do the old swap out, heading back up to the old 56267.
Oh,
Morris, Minnesota.
Morris, Minnesota.
We'll hopefully get you back on, Adam, for the Halloween special. Maybe sometime around Halloween, come back.
Sounds about right to me. Football's canceled. So
there we go.
Clear schedule.
We'll get Adam on for the Halloween special, the Christmas special, the Easter special. He's the holiday guy. He's the holiday guy. So that seems to wrap it up for tonight then, I guess, folks. So thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you're liking the podcast, sharing the podcast, getting it out there, telling your friends about it, telling your family about it, telling everybody about it. Because telling somebody about it might lead them to get the podcast huge.
And then somebody else knows the executive, and then all of a sudden we're bigger than Joe Rogan.
We can't take down Joe Rogan, but we can be up there with Joe Rogan maybe someday. So thanks everyone for tuning in. This is the Ethan Clerc Podcast Show, episode 81. Thank you for tuning in.
Agreed. And then,
I remember.
It's not even the shape.
Mentally ill.
A special effects agency.